So I don't know about you guys, but in this past year alone, I've come up with at least 5 different business plan ideas in my head that never actually came to life. It always seems like work, relationships, friends, doubts, and the list goes on, always come in the way of launching that idea. Well, in this episode, I speak with 2 women who managed to make it happen despite both working full-time jobs and having full lives outside of work. I don't know how they did it. Veronica and Fatima, twins and co-founders, launched their event planning business, Pico Planning, earlier this year with little business experience, limited leisure time, a lot of Googling, and even more passion, drive, and determination. Here's their story.
So to start things off, I personally like planning things, but I know for a lot of people, planning and organizing is a stressful process. So I'd love for the listeners to learn a little bit more about where this love of planning came from.
Yes, so we both have always been those people who loved planners and planning in general, color coding, even cleaning, organizing our closets, reorganizing our room. So I think just from being young, even with being so active, from doing so many extracurricular activities, whether it was dance, swim, ballet, voice lessons, piano, we had to really at a young age kind of prioritize and figure out, okay, when did we have to do homework? When could we, talk to our friends back on the telephone and not cell phone? Like, when could we call them? So just, all that together, and then just also love, just being able to love doing all that stuff. We have always been planning people. I think even at my day job right now, everyone makes fun of me because I have multiple planners.
Oh my God.
I have my work planner and then I have my, personal planner, and I don't have them really mixed together. And they're always like, oh my God, Fat, why don't you just, use your cell phone? And I don't know, I think there's just some a sensation of crossing something off the list and crossing that day out in a planner that is so satisfying.
Oh, you have physical planners.
Yes, we have physical planners. We do not have digital planners.
Okay.
Actually, I can only speak for myself. Veronica, I don't know if you use a digital.
Yes, I use my Google Calendar pretty extensively to organize. And now that I'm married, I have a calendar that's shared with my husband. So trying to organize this together hasn't gone so just because it's hard to get him to take a look at the calendar too at times. Not everyone is as organized as us, but honestly, thinking back to growing up, I think I blame Lisa Frank for Fatima's obsession with planners, because all the pretty colors, I think it just made us think of it as a fun activity instead of a chore. And then that just became kind of second nature. I also think, our parents aren't planners.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
Yeah. So a lot of last minute vacations, last minute family activities and outings. And I think, to be honest, that lack of control for us was I think it drove us insane. So being able to plan things to a T was our way of taking back that control.
Wow.
Yeah, definitely have to second that, because my dad would spring vacation on us the day of. And we'd be like, what? We wanted to hang out with our friends this weekend. And he's like, no, we're going here. We're going to Gettysburg. We're going to Virginia. And we're like, okay.
Wow.
But I do have to say, I'm trying to be better with digital planners. And I do have a Google shared calendar with my fiance, just so we know which days we can plan whatever events with his family, my family, and our friends.
Yeah. Cool. I think one of the reasons why I love doing podcasting is I love to learn about like the backstory of where things come from. And it's so cool to hear about what it was like growing up. And I didn't know you were involved in so many extracurriculars. Like both of you were.
Yes. So my mom, I don't know, God bless her, because she was our chauffeur for so many years. We would get out of, we would get out of school. She would pick us up and then we would go, she would have snacks in the car and we would go right to the next activity. So I think it was like Thursdays was piano and voice. Wednesdays we had church choir practice. And then we volunteered for so many different after school activities in high school. Like being part of the homecoming committee. And for like our high school, that was like a huge thing. It involved like doing a parade, doing floats, decorating the hallway. Veronica did orchestra. I did string or woodwind ensemble. And then Veronica also did like the pit for the musicals, and I volunteered. Wow. I volunteered for like concessions for all that stuff. So we were like never home.
Wow, that's a lot for a kid.
It definitely was. But I think it also was super rewarding.
Yeah.
And I think it definitely shaped us to who we are today, because where some people can't multitask and get very stressed out about splitting their time, we're pretty good at it. We're pretty good at it.
Yeah. I think also for me, besides like the time management and organizational piece, like meeting new people and working with maybe colleagues, friends, classmates that like I would have never been friends with before. And I think learning that at an early age to just be more accepting and like be exposed to people who aren't in our Italian Filipino circle, like I thought that was like really important. And I don't think I realized the impact that had on us until honestly like entering the workforce.
Yeah. Well, that makes me curious to know if you guys were shy growing up or pretty outgoing.
Yeah, so I think our personalities have flipped, to be honest.
Okay.
So
yes.
I think I was I'm older by 30 seconds. So of course that means I have the weight of the world on my shoulders as the older sister, right? And the firstborn. And I think I was the Miss Attitude, doesn't want to smile, but pretty social though, like pretty outgoing, I'll say outspoken. And then I think over time, I really learned how to value like my private time and how to recharge. And I ended up really discovering that I'm more of an introvert than an extrovert. And I get energized by, having reflection time and being alone. And I think growing up, Fatima was like the shy one, like hiding behind me, like wanting to be in the group. And then now she's like wanting to go out all the time. And I'm like, oh no, I like my bed. I'll stay on the couch. I'm good.
Yeah. I think the switch happened when we were at Seton Hall.
Okay. Interesting.
Just like even with Flash, me being more involved in Flash than Veronica. And I think also when I went away to college, I knew I wanted, it's like a fresh start, right? Like new people. So I kind of wanted to reinvent myself because I was Veronica's shadow.
Oh, wow.
I will never forget for our senior scholarships, we were both in the top 20% of our class, and we had to present to the Rotary Club for a scholarship. And we went to this luncheon, and we're twins. We do almost the exact same things. We're almost all the same activities. So she presents first, and then I present, and I'm like, I don't want to repeat all the same things. So like I made everyone laugh because I said, I'm Fatima. My twin sister just said everything I was going to say.
Oh my God.
So if you have any questions, just raise your hand and I'll answer them, because, like we did almost everything together. Our group of friends were pretty similar.
Wow.
we had like some differences. I was more involved with band where she was more involved with choir in high school. So she had like that separation of friends. But for the most part, it was the same friend group. And then, being at Seton Hall, I had more of my friend group and my independence, and then she had hers. And we still have the same core friends that we grew up with. But what's nice is that now, like, I can also become friends with her friends because she'll introduce me to new people. And I'm definitely more of the extroverted twin now. Like, as she said, like, I will want to go out, and she's like, what's wrong with you? I want to stay. Like, it's 9 o'clock. I want to be in bed. I'm like, so do I, but sometimes I just want to go out. And she's like, my weekends are always like packed with different activities, whether it's with, my fiance's family, my family. And she's like, I don't know how you do it.
I really don't. I'm like so impressed because that's like, I always joke with Tom, my husband, that like we can't double book. Like we can't have multiple things on a Saturday. It's like we need work like insane amount of hours, right? So needing that time to ourselves is really important. And I know that Fatima's like her alone time is also her recharge time, but her time with friends is her recharge time. But that is not how I work.
That's so funny to hear. I think I identify with Fatima. I think I need to be with people a lot. I also value alone time, but like I also need that.
Yeah.
It's really funny because right now, like a lot of companies are having the conversation around like returning to the office versus work from home. And I feel like that is so split in the corporate world because so many people have gotten used to more flexibility at home. And just for me, like I am so much more productive when I'm not in the office because I'm not distracted to have conversations with those around me. But I know like some people really want to come back because that like human connection is so important too. So the balance is definitely key.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. So it's really cool to learn so much about you guys about family life. So now moving on to the start of the business. I'd love to know when you first got the idea to start the business and what the journey was like from the inception of the idea to launching and beyond.
Yeah. So back in 2019, Fatima was really helpful in planning my wedding. And we had so much fun doing that, like just from early ideas once I got engaged to, like, what is the theme gonna be? And like, what is the experience we want our guests to have? And, even like the minor details for my shower, like we really had a lot of fun doing that. And I think we were kind of riding the high afterwards, we spent a year and a half planning this huge event. And then all of a sudden it was like done. And there was nothing for us to plan. There was nothing else going on. And I would find myself like asking her like opinions on my honeymoon plans.
Oh, wow.
And any other little thing to like just get that thrill back. And so, we had talked about it. We were like, we really should think about doing something official with a planning company. And over the past 2 years, some friends got engaged, and it was really fun for me to help just brainstorm with them or share ideas, especially in like a pandemic. It was so different from planning my own wedding, which is crazy to say, but 2 years, a lot has changed. And I think the catalyst was in, I want to say April of this year. So I have a really super group of work colleagues that from a previous employer that I still keep in contact with. And two of the three of them were, on our Zoom update, they were talking about how like they started their consulting business, one in like a kind of like financial planning area, and one like that has to do with resumes and prepping for interviews. And I was so impressed. I was like, wow, I can't believe that you guys like took the official leap to like start a real business. And I was really inspired by their grit and like perseverance.
Yeah.
And I had told them, like, you know, Fatima and I have always thought about doing event planning, but I don't know if it's the right time. And I don't know if like I have the time to commit to it. And they were like, just do it. Just like, they're like, just dive in. Like, you've been talking about this for the last 2 years about how much you want to do it. Like, bite the bullet and do it. And I didn't. I was like, no. But
Yeah,
then
she literally came home one day and she's like, let's just do it.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. And we sat there with my computer and like we figured out all like the legal things that we had to do, financial stuff, even just like putting the name out there, and we signed up and did it.
Yeah, it literally took one Saturday afternoon for us to just be like, you know what, we're doing this. Like, we're committing to it.
Wow, I love that. I feel like sometimes you have to just bite the bullet and do it. Like, I wonder if there's ever a perfect time to do something like this. So it's awesome that you had friends that kind of inspired you to do it. Did you have any experience in any of that stuff, like the legal and the financial, or did you just Google everything?
We honestly sat there and Googled everything. We found like a website that really helps people who are starting out, from, you know, getting a business license to figuring out insurance, things like that.
Wow.
So we signed up. And then the company we use also has like other package upgrades. So eventually we added on some extra stuff, you know, tax purpose wise. There's like a ton of things that we had no idea about. We still are learning.
Yeah.
Like, we actually just got QuickBooks.
Okay.
we're like trying to figure that out, because tax season is approaching and we're like, oh, we got to get everything in order. But we had no idea. And what's really nice is that my day job, my boss, he is a former Wall Street retired man. So he is very much in with business and I run his business. So he knew that I was very open with them and I told them, listen, Veronica and I have always wanted to do this. So I'm not sneaking around doing anything behind your backs. This is what's going to happen. We started our own business. It will not take away anything from work. So you don't have to worry. And he's been a very great mentor, because I can easily dial his number up and ask him any questions, whether it's tax related, anything. And he'll be like, oh no, you have to do it this way, or you could do it that way.
Wow.
And it's very helpful to have him. Otherwise, because sometimes you can Google things and you're still like, I have no idea what they're talking about.
Yeah.
So he's been very guiding throughout the entire process as well.
Wow, that's an amazing connection to have. In the beginning, when you were learning about all the things that you had to do, did it ever turn you off at some point?
Yes. We didn't realize how much money we had to put out to start a business. It was a decent amount, and I think if like I had one piece of advice for someone starting their business, it's to have, you know, like a cushion, and whatever you're comfortable with, you know, it could be $1,000, $3,000, but just have a cushion and something that you're willing to spend, because we had no idea. And then in one afternoon, we had spent so much money. We just looked at each other and were like, wow, I guess it's for real now.
Oh my, like on license, or like what is the money spent on?
Yeah, so on licenses, and then the program, you know, the company that we had to sign up for, it wasn't free. And it's for anyone who really is starting a company where you're going to need legal advice.
Yeah.
You know, because in the party planning industry, you do need some type of insurance. There's always something that you're going to need legal advice for. It's different. And I always want to stress this, because someone else asked me at work, it's different from starting like an Etsy page.
Yeah.
Right. Because with Etsy, you're selling something off of the internet, and it could be something tangible, but for us, it's like our services.
Yeah.
And we have to physically be present. And even certain wedding venues, believe it or not, you need to have insurance. I didn't know this until Veronica was doing her wedding planning process. You can't really, depending on the venue, you can't really take the cheap way out and get like a family friend to take photos. You have to have a photographer who's insured for X amount of money. So same thing with like wedding planners and anyone outside of a venue, depending on the venue, you have to have like X amount of insurance liability. So
yeah, and I think also just like not realizing all the little things that add up, right? So we did some research on like what's the best like technology for us to use as planners to draft contracts and to keep track of any leads and like have kind of a CRM, like lead workflow. And like, to have access to that's a monthly subscription. And our design work, website, like all of that, all the little things where it's like, oh, it's only like X amount per month, but then you realize like, wow, it's like all these little things add up. And I think like at times you can get discouraged. You can be like, oh, like I did all these things and I had one lead come through. Why am I doing this? And like, you honestly like need to take a step back. I mean, it's okay to have those thoughts, right? Like no one's in love with their job 24/7, right? So like we're human, we're allowed to have other emotions. And I think that's just part of the process.
Yeah, for sure. There's so much that I wasn't aware of. I mean, I know that there's a lot that goes into planning a business, but hearing this really makes me even more aware of how much I don't know. So I can't imagine how you guys are working full time and then managing the business. So I'd love to know how you balance both of those things.
It is a little tough because both of our daytime jobs are very demanding. I'm a district manager for European Wax Center, and I run 2 stores on my own. So I'm the first point of contact. If someone at the front desk calls out, there's no coverage, I have to go back to work. And I mean, case in point, last week, someone called out and I left work and I was like, oh, I get to go home a little early today. And I was like, nope, I'm going back to work. So, my daytime job has a lot of demands on its own. And then same with Veronica's, and I have Sundays, Mondays off from my current job. So Tuesday through Saturday, I'm working. So I really take Mondays for me to really devote time to Pico planning, whether that might be brainstorming or figuring out ways to advertise, any back end stuff, technology issues. That's my day that is fully devoted to Pico planning. And then after hours, during the week, Veronica and I have conference calls. We will literally send each other Google Hangout meetings throughout the day. Like, hey, like I have time at this time, let's talk. And then when it comes to, booking an event, we have to look at both of our calendars to make sure that they're in sync and we can commit to this person. We did have someone who, my job has blackout dates, and we had a wedding that fell during the blackout dates. So like I knew I couldn't commit to it, but Veronica could. And we've done events where it was just me taking the lead because she had something else to do, and vice versa.
Yeah, I think it is really challenging on my end because like pre-pandemic and starting now, like I do a lot of travel for work. And that travel isn't planned, a year in advance. It's, maybe a couple of weeks, if that. So just knowing that there's going to be limitations and, busy season versus not so busy at work, just trying to plan around those things. And even trying to make sure that like we're both on board. Like if one person can't handle it, like, are you comfortable? I'll say like, I can't do this. Are you available? If you're not comfortable, like we can pick and choose. I think that's like one of the challenges though, we're so new that we want to say yes to everything.
Yeah.
we want to make everyone happy, and we want to say yes to everything. But I think one of the priorities that we set when we first launched was a promise to ourselves that this wasn't going to be like super stress inducing. Like this is something that we fell in love with and we want to enjoy. And so we're not putting pressure on ourselves to generate X revenue a year based on this this new venture. So knowing that going in has been a helpful reminder every time we have to say no, or every time we're questioning whether or not like we should move forward with a certain event. Because, you know, deep down inside in my heart, I'm like, yes, I want to do this, but I can't, or like I know that it's going to be an issue, and if I can't commit 100% to it, I don't want someone to feel like I'm not being there for them on their special day, whether it's their wedding or some other event.
Yeah, and I think it's great that we communicate if we aren't comfortable running an event by ourselves, because we don't want to freak out in front of our clients. I do have to say our first event I did do by myself, and my mom and fiance were both there to help me because Veronica couldn't. And I had a little bit of a meltdown only because it was like our first one. Like, she wasn't there, and I was like, I said it was okay, but like now I'm like in the moment and I'm really stressed, and there's a lot going on because it was an outdoor event and Mother Nature was not cooperating with what we wanted, and it's a learning process. So like we didn't even think about weather being an option, like an issue, an obstacle. And it was a big learning curve. So after that, we were like, okay, we have to be honest with each other. If we don't think we can handle it by ourselves, we can't do it. And like even with like my blackout dates or her traveling, we have to make sure that we can fully commit to this client, whatever the event is going to be, because we don't want to disappoint them. And then, you know, they're paying us to do a service for them. We want to make sure that we give them the best of the best. So, but it is definitely challenging doing both. And it's still a learning curve for both of us.
I mean, I think one of like the positives though is that we're sisters. So like when we have those moments of freaking out or like just like blatant honesty, like we can, like we feel comfortable doing it. Like we're not like worried about hurting the other person's feelings, or like, you know, like in a regular professional business setting, like you have to choose your words carefully. You can't get into an argument with your colleagues, but you can get into an argument with your sister. So, you know, and not take it personally. Like, no, like, okay, this is just frustration. This is how you're dealing with the moment, and then move on. And so I think that's definitely like a perk about, you know, working together.
And we also can we like know each other so well. We, you know, we can read each other. Like even if she's not going to say something, I can just look at her and be like, you're feeling this, aren't you? And she's going to say, yeah. So I think it's been really rewarding working with each other, just because too, since we have similar ideas, you know, we can kind of envision the same things. And I think that really works for us, because, you know, we might have a client say, this is what I'm looking for, and Veronica's really the visual person and I'm the organizer. So, you know, she'll be like, okay, I envision this, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's a great idea, and I'll reiterate it, and she's like, that's exactly what I'm talking about. I'm like, okay, cool, we're on the same page.
That's awesome. That's what I wanted to touch on. I wondered how it was working with each other. It does seem like it's really beneficial, not only because you seem to have the same values and visions and goals, but you also seem to have the same work ethic, which is really cool and I think helpful for a business. So I can see how that it's cool to work with your sister.
Definitely. I think, you know, one of the challenges working with someone you know so much, because like she really is like, we're like extensions of each other, right? But I think personality wise, right? Like just because we're twins, we are still so different. And Fatima's the doer. So like when something happens, like she wants to do it like 10 seconds ago.
Yeah.
And I think that speaks to even when we were talking earlier about like her being like super social now, like she just wants to like do. And for me, like I'm more of the visual person, but like the thinker. Like I need a hot minute to like digest all of the information, to like really come up with the plan and then feel comfortable moving forward. So sometimes that's where like there's a little tension. I'm like, wait a minute, like I need a second to like think through, like, is that the best way to go about this? Or do we need to go in another direction? Or like, should we present the client with like a few different ideas, not just this one? And she's like, no, like they said they like this one, let's go with it. So I think that's definitely find a way to come together and compromise on it.
Yeah, even when it comes to like purchasing different decor for events, you know, I'm the person that's like, I found this and this and this. And she's like, hold on, we need to go over this one more time. I want to make sure before we put any money down. But that's really great because she's really the voice of reason, and Veronica is really great with money. And I am not. So it works really well, you know, business wise, because she's, as I said, she's that voice of reason. No, like, let's think about this. And then I'm like, okay, I need to calm down. I'm like just so excited about the project and task at hand that I'm like getting ahead of myself.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can see how when you're in it, it might feel like tension, but I feel like from the outside looking in, it just looks like balance.
I like that.
I was curious to hear about how the bridal expos and shows, like how that experience is, because I tried to put myself in those shoes and I felt like for me that would be really nerve-wracking, just talking to people and like talking about the business. So I was wondering how it feels like for you.
I think it is, it's everything. It's nerve-wracking, it's exciting. The first show we did, I want to say it was our biggest hit. It was at Addison Park. And it just had such a great turnout too, which I think is why we wanted to continue going to bridal shows, because the first experience was just amazing. You know, you get to meet all these different people that come through the door. We got there about 2 hours before it started. We set, you know, a whole backdrop, stand up, our table, we had cookies made. Veronica had ordered pens with our website and our business name on it. And of course, like we learned different things, like, okay, the cookies worked, this didn't. People really like this. We need a sign, because at that point we didn't even have a sign that said Pico Planning. So people came up to our table and they're like, what's this? Like, oh my God, like we don't have a sign.
We have a sign now.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah. So after that show, we're like, oh my God, we need a sign, because people don't even know what we are. We had handouts made that have a list of our services on them. But it is nerve-wracking at first. Just because like I love meeting new people, but again, it's like a bunch of strangers. It's your first time really selling yourself. And like the first one, we didn't know our groove and how to pitch. So, you know, we were trying to talk to every single person. It's loud in there because like the band is playing, the DJ's playing. But I mean, looking at the several bridal shows that we have done, well, I am going to be a bride, but if I wasn't in the wedding industry, like I think it's so worth it to go to these things, because, you know, not only us, but every single vendor that showcases at these events, they give away freebies, you know, whether it's like a discount off of, you know, photography service or a free limo service. There's always something that you can win, a free honeymoon, and it's just so exciting. And I think that was the best part about being there with everyone. Like everyone is just so excited to be there. And like even Veronica and I, when the DJ and the band were showcasing themselves, we were kind of getting into it. We're like, oh yeah, we're good. And people were looking at us and we're like, no, clap for them. Oh my God. And also like networking with all the other vendors. We went around, gave our business cards out, introduced ourselves, because you never know, like the photographer next to us, he might have a client that's looking for a wedding planner, or whatever the case may be, vice versa. So we've had a lot of different professional relationships grow from these bridal shows. I think we have like 40 different vendors that we have made friends with because of this. And the wedding industry, especially like New Jersey, it's such a booming industry, and everyone knows everyone. Like you'll walk into these shows and you're setting up and people are saying hi to each other because they've seen each other at another show, or they just know because their clients have used both of them before. And I think it's such a nice feeling to walk in, and we've had like this one guy and he's like, hey, we saw him twice and we're like, hey, we know you now. And it is very like scary at first to put yourself out there. But I think at the end of the night, it's just rewarding. We went home with no cookies, no cake pops left, no pens. And we're like, wow, it was like really worth the money that we spent on this. We put our name out there. People know who we are. We've run contests where we've given away, gift cards to restaurants that people are like Instagram worthy restaurants that they're like, oh, I want to go there. And it's really gotten people's attention to, oh, I want to check out their table. Or we've given discounts off of our services as well. And, we have people lined up who really want to use us because they've seen us at these bridal shows.
Yeah. I would also add, I guess, like, just going back to your point, Pat, about like a little anxious at first at the bridal shows. Like, for me, it wasn't so much like the cold calling. So I come from like a background in sales. Like I would have to knock on professors' doors and like whether they wanted me there or not, like had to have a conversation with them. So that, like, I wasn't so nervous about that. It was really like nailing down our story. Like, what do we want to say to someone when they come to our table? Like 30 people can come up to me, like 100 people can come up to me, and I'm not scared to have the conversation. It was especially that first show, like really figuring out like, what's our pitch? Like, how are we like presenting ourselves? Like, what do we want to say? So it was really nice to kind of try out different things. And like after certain conversations, I'd be like, ooh, like that, like I totally messed that one up. Like, there's no way that bride is going to come to us now because like I totally did not describe what we do very well. And like we really refined it. So now when we go to bridal shows, it feels we're just so much more comfortable.
Yeah. Did you guys like practice with each other or like no?
The only thing we practiced was like setting up our like table and stuff because we weren't sure like when you're at home, like that, all those items take up so much space that you're like, oh yeah, that's fine. But then when you get into like a giant ballroom and you have this like table that's like twice the size of your kitchen table when you live in a 2-bedroom apartment, you're like, oh wow, this is like a lot bigger than I thought. So like practicing like setting things up, like laying like I think I drew on a piece of paper like this is how I want our table to look.
Oh wow.
And like really planning it out. Because we know like everyone's like a lot of people are enticed by like the visual appeal, right? Like especially as a party planner, event planner, like if you have great presentation that speaks to like what you're able to accomplish at the event. And so we were very meticulous about that, but not really practicing other things.
Yeah, I think we also, with putting the backgrounds and the tables together, we had to practice because at home, you could take your time and do it as slow as you want. But then you have like a time limit to set up before guests start walking through the door. And, they give you up to 2 hours to get there early. But if we're both at our day jobs, and we can't get there at 5 o'clock, especially depending on where the location is. Veronica's in North Jersey, I'm in South Jersey. So, there have been times where I've had to pick her up and then go back down, or we are able to like somehow meet. Like she'll take her car. Before she didn't have a car, so it was a little bit of a struggle, and now she does, thank God. So like we were able to meet up and then get things done. And then now that we've kind of perfected our timing for putting our set together, like we know like, oh, okay, we don't have to be there at 5 o'clock. We can get it done if we go at 6 o'clock. But yeah, those first few shows, that was really what we had to practice, because we came with boxes of things to just showcase, from table numbers, if people need that for like their wedding or an event, to even our Pico Planning sign saying like we can get things made like that, to a whole backdrop stand. And we have like different backdrop stands that we now have in storage, just in case people want different types of things for each event. So
wow, so many things that I didn't know when a show like that.
Yeah.
But it's really cool that you guys have built this network with people that are like interested in the same things as you, or like, are part of the same industry. That must be really nice, just like make friends that are interested in similar things.
Yeah, and it's nice to hear the different event and wedding trends that are happening. I think I read something like 2022 is going to have the most weddings since like 1970.
Wow, because of COVID?
Yeah, like people have pushed their wedding back, and then so many people who've gotten engaged from 2020 to today, them trying to figure out when they want to get married, because most of this year was taken. And so many people are, even for next year, there really aren't many venues available. People are getting married during the week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, when it's not usually normal to have a big event. People, they want to get married, and if they're going to want to get married in 2022, they're going to pick whatever day is available. So just hearing things from like photographers, videographers, even florists about the different trends that are happening, even what is like super popular for the newlyweds and the couples that they sign on. It's interesting for us to hear, because we're like, oh, okay, like we can keep an eye out for that. A lot of like outdoor weddings have been happening. The one thing we have noticed, not a lot of like church weddings anymore. There's kind of been a decline in that, and I'm not sure if it's for like religious, political reasons, or just people trying to get married within a timeline.
Yeah. I also think like looking at the different ways people celebrate their weddings, like obviously the big COVID trend is micro weddings, and then scheduling like a larger party TBD, or like in the next year to celebrate their anniversary. But like, brides still want to feel bridal on their wedding day. Like just because you're doing a micro wedding doesn't mean it can't be nice. So like getting to know from vendors like what are the trends at a micro wedding, and like what could you do to still like make it feel special for the bride and bring all the like intimacy and special moments to that type of ceremony. And then part two is like, okay, well, what does this party now look like when we're planning for the future? So it's really cool to see like the different trends like now, because that's a very like COVID specific thing that's happening.
Yeah, for sure. I'm hearing a little bit about it because I have a lot of friends that are also starting to get married, and I feel like things constantly change.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, now I'd love to learn more about what you guys are offering through your business. I saw on your website that you have a bunch of different packages that you're offering, so I'd love for you to share a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so we do offer a bunch of different packages. We are involved in whatever our clients want us to be involved in. So we can help with early like concept planning stages, like if that like you are planning a surprise birthday party or a retirement party or a bridal shower, but don't really know like where to start, and need help with, vendor and venue research and theme planning and stuff like that, like we can help from that conceptual piece all the way through like day of coordination and running the show. So, someone might want help with just like the conceptual stuff, but really won't need us later down the line because their venue might provide a day of coordinator, and that's totally fine. Or someone might need us to help with like their budgeting and communications with their vendors and research, but and also like to be there the day of, but only for like initial setup, and they might not need us there for the whole day. And then someone might need us the whole day to run the whole thing, start to finish, to help with all of the planning as well, and we can do that too. So we always like to tell people that, whatever your need is, we're willing to like come up with a customized plan that fits your schedule and what you're looking for. So we always encourage people to like, yes, you can look at our information on our site, but if there's things that like you like in column A that's not in column D, or you want to mix and match, like let's talk about that and come up with like the best plan for you.
Yeah, and we're always willing to work with a budget because honestly, like everyone's on a budget, especially during these COVID times. No one wants to be spending 80 grand on a wedding, and with all the vendors and venues and everything that goes into putting a wedding together, or even just an event, no one has that extra cash really to spend, thousands of dollars on an event planner. So we are always willing to work with a budget. We've had weddings where they were on a budget, and we took a look at what they needed and we compromised. So as Veronica said, we are always willing to take column A, column B, and mix it up, whatever their needs are. And I think especially being new to the industry, I think that's something you need to be. You need to be flexible. And I've learned that not just with Pico Planning, but like even my current job, like you just don't know where the year is going to take you. COVID taught all of us that. So just being able to be flexible and being able to see where your clients are going to take you and what their needs are, it's so important to just have them be heard. And then if it's something you really can't do, like we'll talk separately about it, and then we'll give them the feedback and be honest with them and what we can and can't work with. So
that's awesome. Well, I think you guys touched on this a little bit, but according to my social media, it seems like there's something in the air because I see a lot of engagements happening, people having babies and folks retiring. So lastly, for people that want to find you, where can they get in touch with you about planning their events?
Yeah, so we're on Instagram at Pico Planning. We have a Facebook page, Pico Planning. You can easily Google us, picoplanning.com. What's really great is that you can schedule a consultation with us. It's a free consultation. So we always encourage it, even if you decide not to, continue with us, at least you have your ideas heard. I want to say probably Instagram is the easiest way to get in touch with us, just because I feel like in today's society, everyone's on Instagram, more so than Facebook as well. And the last few events that we did actually acquire, we got through Instagram DMs.
Oh, wow.
So yeah. So it's just the easiest way. People are browsing, they see our name come up, just send us a message, and then we'll go back and forth, and I can send an email just to get that first consultation done.
Awesome. Okay, I'll be sure to link your Instagram, Facebook, website in the show notes, so people can reach out. But yeah,
thank you.
This was really fun. It was nice to catch up with you guys.
I know it's been a hot minute.
I know.
So we've made it to the end of the episode. Thank you guys for listening to the entire thing. Every time I record a podcast episode and then listen to the finished product, I remember how much I love podcasting. I love this medium so much because I'm able to connect with people and have meaningful conversations, or conversations that are meaningful to me, because I get to learn about what people are passionate about and what brought them to their passions. So I'm all about that stuff. If anyone is interested in learning more about Pico Planning, again, I will have all of their resources linked in the show notes, so definitely check them out. We have some really great conversations coming up in the next couple of weeks. I will be publishing some new epis out, so definitely keep an eye out for those. And yeah, I hope all of you guys are doing well. I feel like for me personally, the holiday season, as joyful as it is, it always brings a lot of introspectiveness and sometimes hard moments. So I'm definitely kind of in that mode right now. So I just want to send some peace and love and grace if you need it, if you're struggling right now. I'm here with you. And till next time, happy connecting, y'all. Bye.